Leader of Opposition Business.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Let me again add my voice and welcome in the students who are here and, of course, fellow senators to this morning. Very important, and, of course, timely discussion or debate on a project that is very important and dear to the hearts of many St. Lucians, especially those who are in the south of the island. Madam President, before proceeding, I would like to take leave and congratulate the students of the Forestier School for bringing this trophy as it relates to science in the science fair. I think that we're commended in terms of the many achievements that have been, realized in this year as it relates to our children. And I say this primarily because we do have our children here, and like I told them, that they must take grasp of this world. It is their time. It is an opportunity for them. They must not wait for persons to instruct them, but take this time very seriously and take their schoolwork very seriously, because they are indeed the future leaders of our country. Madam President, when I listen to the leader of government business, and I know the leader of government business is far more vocal than she has presented herself to be, because she do speak on issues when she have to speak on certain issues that are personal to her. I was a bit surprised that on a matter that is so important, a matter that is so critical at this juncture, that she's asking, let us not rehash the issues. Let us just sing Kumbaya and proceed, because the government is borrowing $54 million at this time, near the end of their term in office, to complete a project that started with their administration some years ago. Madam President, just to summarize it, with all the discussions that we have heard, it must be emphasized at this point, considering our vulnerability as a small nation, that the reconstruction of St.Jude Hospital is the saddest project story implementation in the history of St. Lucia. And I dare say, Madam President, as a quantity surveyor, with a first degree and a master's, Madam President, I'm more quantity surveyor than a politician or a parliamentarian. This project is infested with secrets and corrupt practices. And I'll prove that this morning, Madam President. Why I'm making this presentation, Madam President? One, I'm in the parliament, and I'm accountable to the leader of the opposition, who have made certain statements in the lower house. And I listened carefully, Madam President, to the issues. And in my opinion, humble opinion, Madam President, I can only conclude that this motive behind this project is the desire to spend as much money as possible for some reason or the other that I didn't understand, maybe stimulus or otherwise. But Madam President, more importantly, the idea of spending monies in this government recklessly without accountability is consistent, Madam President, with the nature, with what our young people are dealing with. Thus our crime problem, the easy means of making money or spending monies. Madam President, let me illustrate the St.Jude Hospital in a way that all of us can understand. Our children, single mothers who are at home, business people. Madam President, just imagine that you are working in the United States of America for years, saving monies to build a home for your 6 children that you have left in your neighbor's house. The house is overcrowded. You sent your monies home to build a house for your 6 children. The time when they're supposed to be transferred to the home, you arrive, but the building is 70% complete. It's incomplete. And you notice that there may have even been waste of your resources. But one of your kids, Madam President, even have gotten worse of his illness or her illness as a result of the overcrowding of your neighbor's house. Your children are weary, and are not happy. But you are unhappy about your contractors because they have delayed. But the building is 70% complete. But you also have, Madam President, some monies left. There are some materials left. Madam President, do you go back to the bank and demolish what is 70% complete and build a new home for your children? Do you do this? Do you do this? I will read your standards based on your own audit report. Do you do this? Or, Madam President, which parent would do something like that? Madam President, you would not do this. And I dare any parent to suggest that they would demolish the 70% building and build a new building. Money is nothing for y'all. $54 million. But what a conscientious parent would do would salvage what's there, use the materials that's left, and in the case of St.Jude, let me tell you, there were 20 containers of materials left with all what is required to complete the hospital. There was $40 million left. Oh no, they did not complete it. And I have evidence to suggest that there were 20 containers of materials left because the Minister of Economic Affairs went in the media and said he found 20 containers of materials. There were paint, there were tiles, there were equipment. Monies were deposited to G Electrical for all sophisticated equipment. Oh yes, I know you all are consulting. Is it true? Yes, I will provide you with the evidence. And listen, anybody in St. Lucia could go onto the web, St. Lucia News Online, and receive all of the information. But let me tell you, it is factual. So what happened, Madam President? They choose not to complete, but to build a new hospital.
Senator Mangal.
Madam President, I stand on a point of order, Section 36A. I think that the leader of opposition business is misleading the House by indicating that this government is demolishing the St. Jude's Hospital that is 70% complete. He knows very well, Madam President, that this government has not demolished the St. Jude's Hospital project. In order to say that we're demolishing the project, he's alluding that we're demolishing an entire structure that was constructed before, and that is not the case. So he needs to withdraw that statement, Madam President.
Senator Henry.
Madam President, a hospital exists in full, not in part. So when you demolish 20% of it, it ceases to exist. So do not tell me that you did not demolish the hospital. You did not. What are you trying to tell me? You demolished the hospital because there were buildings built to function as a hospital. I didn't say you demolished all the buildings. I said you demolished the hospital. The buildings that you have demolished prevent you from operating St. Jude and completing it. You went on to build a new hospital. Yeah.
So why didn't you go there?
Why you being so pedantic about hospital? But you demolished buildings.
Leader of Government Business.
Yeah.
Madam President, the Senator continues to mislead the House because he's talking about a hospital and there was never any hospital. It is a structure that was partially done and it's not even partially complete. We cannot even talk about complete, Madam President, because it was just about 30% started. So the Senator should stop, Madam President. The Senator should desist from misleading the House by speaking about a hospital because there was no hospital.
Senator Henry.
Madam President, I'm surprised the leader of government business do have the voice to speak on hospital. Recently, she said she knows nothing about the hospital in the media. She's only waiting for a key.
Senator Henry.
Madam President, the Senator continues to mislead the House. I never said I do not know nothing about a hospital.
Senator Henry, please move along.
Thank you very much, Madam President.
You made your point, and it has been clarified. It is buildings you're speaking of.
Yes.
Please continue.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'm surprised, extremely surprised this morning at the response I'm getting.
And
you know,
Senator
on
Henry,
the
Senator Henry, can you continue without
Thank you very much, Madam
reference
President.
to what I've asked you not to continue to say? Just
Thank you
move
very much,
along.
Madam
Just move
President.
along, please.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I do understand. But, Madam President, to continue, let us pay close attention to the facts. The facts. And, Madam President, you may wish to journey with me. Let's go back. Madam President, it was about midnight, September, 8th of September 2009. Fire broke in the St.Jude Hospital. And by 2009, we all woke up to the reality. St.Jude Hospital has fallen. Madam President, the then Prime Minister was the Honorable Stephenson King. Madam President, I quote from the then Prime Minister, and hear what he said. Over the last 5 weeks, we have made significant stride towards the attainment of our vision for the reconstruction and modernization of St.Jude Hospital. In October, government received a technical delegation from Taiwan which presented a master plan for St.Jude Hospital. This plan was subjected to rigorous review by the St.Jude Hospital Task Force, and very shortly detailed technical specifications will be completed. The government will spare no effort to start the rebuilding process early in the new year. I must take this opportunity to publicly thank the Taiwanese government for the technical and other assistance which they provided thus far. Government is hopeful that the first phase of the new St.Jude Hospital will be completed within 18 months. That was the Prime Minister, Honorable Stephenson King, when the hospital got burnt. The hospital under them had to be completed within 18 months. Not carefully, he said, there was a master plan. Comrades, there was a master plan. In addition, technical specifications would be available shortly. You look more like your brother than yourself today. But Madam President, let's fast forward and as you journey with me. 2011.
And Senator Henry.
Yes, Madam President.
The bill is about borrowing funds for the hospital. So, I'm not inclined to listen to a long history.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I'm glad you said let us fast forward.
Yeah.
And can we do that?
Madam President, not fast forward.
Thank you.
President, and I'll certainly do that within my time. I do not want to bore you with history. But Madam President, if you bear with me, at this point in time as we're going to borrow that amount of money, it's important that St. Lucians understand where we are, where we're coming from. Because it would be difficult for me to conclude that I cannot support the motion before this House if we do not bring certain things to this House and make it clear. Madam President, if we speed it up to 2011, of course there was a new administration, the St. Lucia Labour Party. Madam President, you would ask me, what was done? And I would respond in this manner. The St. Jude Hospital at the time was approximately 140,000 square foot, 140,000 square foot to 160,000 square foot. Designed for approximately 90 beds, and I'll come back to that. Approximately $98 million was spent, and it will require approximately $30 million to complete. And you'd ask me, Madam President, was there value for money? Can the project continue and proceed with You would ask that question, and I say, oh yes. Did they waste your money, Madam President, you would ask. But Madam President, let me show you some facts you would want to consider. And Madam President, for that reason, I considered other hospitals across the region in the world to establish the price. Madam President, the OKEU hospital was built at about 175 million EC dollars. And for the sake of those, instead of looking at the large figures, let us look at the unit cost, or the cost per square foot. OKEU, 151,000 square foot. The new hospital was built at $1,168 per square foot. Let's look at another hospital, Madam President. And Madam President, I look at the Arima General Hospital in Trinidad with 110 beds, a total square footage of 550, built at a unit cost of $1,964 per square foot. Let's look at a U.S. rural hospital with 25 beds, built at $1,135.90 per square foot. Let's take St.Jude Hospital as was being built. It was being built at a mere price of $866.67 per square foot. So you ask, Madam President, were we receiving value for money? Based on the rates being used to build hospitals across the region and across the world, the St.Jude Hospital was being built at a very good price per square foot. But why? And you would ask, Madam President, could it have been cheaper? Because there were existing buildings on the site. Madam President, the consultant report that this House has failed to expose to the public, and I quote page 155 of 201, cite specific issues from the consultant that they paid $1 million to do a report. And I quote, the redevelopment and reconstruction of St.Jude Hospital occurs within the context of an existing site with existing buildings, some of which have been reused or integrated into the current planning. This is often done with the aim of reducing construction costs, but often leads to higher costs than new construction, as well as zoning law and strategies. Madam President, as a quantity surveyor who have participated in the rehabilitation of the Governor General's home and other buildings in the public sector over my 25 years, Madam President, most times we believe renovating buildings is cheaper than building new ones. So of course, St. Jude had its challenges, but notwithstanding what the consultant said, St. Jude came at a mere rate of $866.67. So I would tell you, Madam President, after coming home, of course, it was far less cheaper than OKEU. It was far less cheaper than the Arima Hospital in Trinidad, far more cheaper than the hospital in the US. So why demolish it if it was cheaper? Madam President, I listened to pronouncement made at the South turning ceremony when the Taiwanese were here. And when I heard that there were about $30 million, you have to deal with crime. Let me focus on the hospital. I'm a quantity surveyor. You understand? I will tell you, everything in the report is there. Take your report. Take the St. Jude audit report. You understand? When they ask you all questions, you all do not want to answer, but now you all want to speak while I'm speaking. But I'll proceed, Madam President. Sorry about this. Madam President, a breakdown of the cost of St. Jude, or what you consider, what you would put into a certificate of completion. Decontamination and demolition works, 1.3 million. Civil works was 29 million. Plumbing, solar, water, and heating was 2.9 million. Electrical works at the time was 4.1 million. ICT, information communication technology, approximately 825,000. Air conditioning ventilation was approximately $651,000. Windows, $584,000. Diagnostic imaging equipment at that time was pretty close to $759,000. Painting. Water and painting was about $1.7 million. Water and wastewater, $2.8 million. Materials and deposits, $31 million in the value of works. Madam President, according to FIDIC standard form of contracts, you can value works, but also include in your valuation materials that you have purchased as the contractor and be paid for it. So if I'm building a house for you, Madam President, I build the foundations, but I've gone and I've purchased all of the tiles, all of the windows, and it's on your site. In the payment certificate to get paid, I would also include those materials. What it means that $41 million worth of materials were included in the payment certificate. It means that there were materials for St. Jude, $41 million. When you have $30 million in your bank account to finish a hospital, you have $41 million of material. Why go and build a new hospital? What have we done with those $41 million worth of materials? I understood that they expired. You know why they expired? Because the minister responsible said in the media that he has been going back and forth. The only place I've heard that statement is in scripture where the devil said he has been going to and fro. Back and forth for 4 years. For 4 years. For 4 years. I know all of you are happy. The question I asked earlier on, you all do not want to answer, but here you all want to answer that. Go ahead. Go ahead. I am not speaking as a politician or as a parliamentarian. I'm speaking as a quantity surveyor. And I'm an only quantity surveyor in this parliament. But Madam President, more importantly, in the report you would ask the question, again, was there value for money? Madam President, you would ask, what exactly about this building? Madam President, I want to read page 51 of 201, 155 of 201, the issue dealing with St.Jude Hospital. The technical audit said, an audit prepared by this side, they paid $1 million for the audit, technical audit. Here's what the audit said. We do see great value present in the works completed to date and believe the project is salvageable and could be converted into the facility that can properly serve the needs of St. Lucia. As St. Jude Hospital is designated as a primary healthcare facility with one of its primary roles to ensure effective acute and referral services in the south of the island with future potential for growth and development. Madam President, the technical audit said that. But Madam President, can I qualify how did he say it?
Madam President.
Madam President, he said that in the context.
Senator Mangal.
Yes, Madam President. I just want to, for my own information, find out whether the audit report has been a document of the House.
You're
and the
standing
Senate.
on what, Senator? On what, a point of order? What are you standing
No,
on?
point of elucidation, Madam President. Section 36B.
Madam President, point of elucidation. I would like to proceed, Madam President. I would say this, and for the benefit of the member.
Proceed, Senator Henry.
Yeah,
Madam
I'd like to
President,
get
and for the benefit of the
House.
member, before your time, this document was already cited and has been made a document of the House. Check the former leader of government business. The former leader of government business that has been raised. But let me tell you, Madam President, the statement made in the audit that we do see great value present. Madam President, when you build a
Leader of
house.
government business. Leader of government business.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam President, on a point of elucidation, Madam President, I really would like to find
Madam
out whether
President,
that
I
is
would
the
like to
same
proceed with my
report.
presentation, Madam President, and I yield. I'm not going to yield my time. I need to proceed, Madam President, because we need to leave here at a certain time. The students are waiting to get up for the lunch. Madam President, let me tell you this, Madam President.
Senator Henry, you
Yes.
may proceed.
Thank you very much. Madam President, when we do a valuation on works, We just simply state the work has a value of X amount so that the contractor could be paid. When this technical auditor will say there's great value, he didn't say that there's value. Value would have been sufficient.
Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, on a point of order, Madam President, Senator Henry is referring to the technical audit, the report of the technical audit. It is true that a technical audit, a final report of a technical audit has been presented in this House prior to now. However, since he asked the question, when was the final report of the technical audit for reconstruction of the St. Jude Hospital submitted? I just would like to know, Madam President, if this is the same final report of the technical audit that he's referring to, just for clarification, Madam President.
Senator Henry, all that I require you to do is please state from which report you are quoting.
Madam President.
Also for my information.
Thank you very much. The preliminary report, Madam President. But let me inform the Leader of Government Business.
Senator Henry, the preliminary report does not tell me anything. What is the name of the report? In what year was it produced, etc.?
Madam President? The St. Jude audit report, technical report.
Has it been made a document of the House?
Yes, Madam President, Madam President, you could look at Hansard when the former Leader of Government Business was there. Check Hansard. But Madam President, I am not on the government side. I am quoting from a document that is well known to be in circulation, Madam President. It is the government side responsibility to give the accuracy of that information.
The government side has to produce if they are quoting from it. You do not have to. But it is not the government side to inform me whether it is a document of the House if you are quoting from it and have stated that it is a document of the House. You have stated that. But the opposite is being said now. Had you not stated that, I may not have required it of you, but you've stated it is a document of the House. Now, are we going to stop and find out through Hansard whether it is a document of the House or not, or are you prepared to make it a document of the House?
Well, Madam President, the audit, the St. Jude technical audit, I'm prepared to make it a document of the House since I'm referencing it, and I could pull it out from my computer and give the members to complete it. It's complete to print it. It's a document that's 300 and plus pages, Madam President, and I'm sure it will take some time, but I would make it a document of the House. Thank you, Madam President.
Proceed, Senator Henry.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And I emphasize this point, Madam President, that the technical audit indicated that there was great value, not just value. When a payment certificate is prepared for a contractor, the architect signs that the value of work is. When the term is qualified to be great value, there's something more to it. But a document that you've paid $1 million for, why couldn't you follow the instructions? No. You decide to demolish sections of what was great value to build a new building. But Madam President, let me come to this a little more clearly. Madam President, remember I said that St. Jude Hospital was 165,000 square foot, or approximately 165,000 square foot. 140 to 160. You could take it, but you could measure it if you want to. There's documentation, you could verify it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Believe that. Don't worry that. But the point I'm making, Madam President, through you, is that Tapio Hospital is just about 50,000 square foot. It means, therefore, that St. Jude Hospital is more than 3 times the size of St. Jude Hospital. Tapio is more than 3 times the size of Tapio Hospital. Tapio Hospital has 30 beds. St. Jude Hospital was being built with 90 beds. And of course, if you do ratio and proportion with beds versus square footage, you could understand why. 165 or 150 to 90 as against 50 to 30 beds. OKEU Hospital, the new hospital. How many beds? OKEU. It's less than VH. But it was designed for 109. 109. Madam President, according to the design brief, St. Lucia needs 216 beds overall. Madam President. And of course, you would recognize those statistics as guided by the professionals. St. Jude Hospital, 90 beds. OKEU, 105. We need a total of 216 beds to satisfy our population. Why do you build a new hospital on St. Jude? And that statement was made by the Honorable Guy Joseph, our Minister of Economic Affairs.
Senator Henry, you have 15 more minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I wish I had more time. But of course you would not provide me with. But let us proceed. I will make do with the time that I have, Madam President. I'll make do with the time that I have. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. I will say the rest in public on the market step when I have a chance. But I'll tell you, if St. Jude Hospital is 90 beds, OKEU is 105, we need a total national bed of 16. Why do you build a new hospital on St. Jude? 80,000 square foot more. 80,000 square foot more, and that pronouncement, in fact, it's not, it is 145. That pronouncement was made by Guy Joseph in the sword turning ceremony. Honorable Guy Joseph. Honorable, 145,000 square foot of new hospital space. So you have 165, you have now 145,000 square foot of space.
Senator Henry,
yeah.
I remind you that ministers of government are referred to by
Thank you very much, Madam President. My deepest apologies. The Honorable Guy Joseph. So you now have at OKEU 175,000 square foot. You have at St. Jude 165, and now you add in 145,000 square foot more. That is what he said in, oh yeah, I love that. You all must listen to when members of cabinet speak in. You understand? What we do have now is one mega hospital in Beaufort. One mega hospital. Guess what? We cannot maintain it. Because when you build in a house for you to live, you must not just think as to how much you could spend to enter the house, but how much it will cost for you to maintain it. Because what you call the life of a building is not just cost, capital cost to build, but the cost of maintaining a building within your life is almost the same amount it's taking for you to build it. So if you build a house for $500,000, and that's what you can afford, you stretch yourself and you get the loan, you are in problems, because to maintain that building, when it starts to deteriorate, it all, for the entire 30 years, will come to the same amount, $500,000. You now putting yourself in a $1 million problem. We cannot afford to maintain St. Jude when it was 165,000 square foot. How do we maintain it when it is 300,000 square foot? Repurpose, yeah, repurpose. While we there repurposing, coronavirus coming at us. And guess what? They're not thinking so well. They say we're going to quarantine people at Rat Islet. Rat Islet is 3 acres of land. St. Jude is 3 acres of building space. So why do you go to Rat Islet, that's 3 acres of land, but you have a building in Beaufort that's already 3 acres? 165,000 square foot of building space divided by 43,560 square foot per acre will give you approximately 3 acres. or one carry, your carry. Let me tell you, the worst thing is when politicians believe that they are doctors, they are engineers, they're everything. Oh, I'm a quantity surveyor by profession. I am a quantity surveyor by profession. I did land surveying by profession. I spent all my time building the new land registry and surveying all lands in St. Lucia, and I spent it so much, more than 20 years working in the Ministry of Planning, building all of the buildings you see around. I am a quantity surveyor. And that's why I speak so passionately about it. But I'm not a doctor. But you must tell the politicians who hold in ministries to listen to professionals. Because look at where we are today. We are building the law. We have hospital. Let me tell you, we might even sell hospital now.
Senator Henry, remember you speaking to me?
Oh, sorry, Madam
And to return to the debate at hand.
You know. But Madam President, there's more to the debate. Madam President, if you follow the discussion that has taken place and that has been led by this side, how they go swinging, seesawing about the issues. At what time the leader of government business said in the media, we need to demolish all of the buildings. I know the coronavirus have all kinds of effects of temperature, but it also affects the mind. It prevents us from remembering certain things too.
Leader of government business.
Yeah, Madam President.
Madam President, on a point of order, I stand again. The Honorable Senator is misleading the House.
No, I'm not
I have never on any occasion stood in the media or anywhere else and said that anybody should demolish all buildings. So he needs to retract.
Madam President, I'm not going to retract. If we could get to social media right now and get on St. Lucia News Online, you would listen to the members saying it. And Madam President, it's time that we use the technology available so when we quote somebody, the professionals out there can just flash that out.
Senator Henry, you are not in the position clearly to provide the evidence that you just gave. So since you are not, please
Madam President, although I've said it, I
statement.
withdraw it and proceed with my presentation, Madam President. But statements have been made to that effect, that we should demolish the building because they're not good. Madam President, at another time, Madam President, and I could say in March 9th, 2017, the new chairman, Dr. Mondesi of St.Jude, talked, and he said, and I quote, the new chairman that they appointed as chairman of St.Jude, hear what he said at a tour. He said, I saw ego, political misinformation, and mismanagement, and that there has to be a moment in the life of a politician when his conscience must take over his love for power, and ask the people to the politicians to prioritize healthcare. This is what Dr. Mondesi said. The former candidate that went up against the Honorable Dr. Kenny Anthony, the person you all appointed, he said there comes a time, and I quote, there is a moment in the life of a politician when his conscience must take over his love for power. Why would he have made that statement? A medical doctor, when he taught St. Jude. What did he see? When a quantity surveyor and a doctor, medical doctor can come together, Madam President, you can believe us. You can believe us. Because this is strange professions. And for some reason or the other, the two of us can coincide. But Madam President, on the 5th of April 2017, hear what happened. 5th of April, the Honorable Guy Joseph at St. Jude Hospital Project Office and the audit team said, they will recommence the work of St. Jude very soon, but with a reduced bed count to 75. Recently they said they're building a new wing, 80,000 square foot, to bring it up to 90. But in 2017 he said he is redesigning it to reduce it to 75. On the 5th of April 2017, he said the report on the existing design relative to the works implemented and to determine suitability for operations of a hospital accreditation. He said that. March 9, 2017. Listen to me. St. Lucia will not cure its ills and problems by voting, by mere voting, but by knowing the truth and having a conscience and being conscious.
Senator Henry, please stay on point and please move
Thank you very much,
the
Madam
discussion
President.
further. You have just about 5 minutes left.
Madam President, on May 29th, on the 29th of May 2018, Honorable Guy Joseph said within a month, a full statement that by the PM will be given. He said the final report came in. On May 18th, Honorable Guy Joseph indicated that the final report came in. I asked the question in this Honorable House today, and it was answered. In December 2017, that report actually came in. But the Honorable Guy Joseph indicated that the final report came in. And he said that on the 29th of May 2018. But Madam President, what is more important for this is that the terms of reference, Madam President, the terms of reference for the technical audit. The final report shall be submitted 12 weeks after the effective date of the contract. When was the contract issued for the technical audit? In 2016. 12 weeks after the final report supposed to come. He said in May 2018 that he has received it. You said in this house. It came in December 2017. So how do I reconcile this? But why would you prepare an audit, submit it on time, the draft report, 300 and something pages, but delay in submitting the final report? Why would you? Are you cooking something to justify the demolition of the hospital when your report have already stated that the report is of the building is of great value? What are you doing behind the scenes? Why? Madam President, I don't expect the leader of government business to understand, because I do sympathize with her. She's waiting for the key. But in a turnkey arrangement, where you give somebody a contract, and there's a form of contract where they call turnkey contracts. Turnkey contracts is when you give somebody a contract, they design, they build, and all you're waiting for is your key. In the traditional form of contracts, Madam President, you get a quantity surveyor to hire, prepare the bills of quantities, get an architect to design, and they tender. And based on that, a payment certificate or final certificate is prepared, and you hand over your building. I listened to the Honorable Guy Joseph in the lower house said, it's a cost-plus contract they have on St.Jude. Cost-plus. And that scared me, Madam President. Madam President, a cost-plus contract is where your price is determined by the cost plus something else. My brother, a cost-plus contract based on the audit, based on the technical audit, the technical consultant said that we use FIDIC, we use the ICE, and we use bespoke contract. Check the technical audit prepared. Take your technical report. Madam President, of course I would not. Read your technical report. But Madam President, when you're going to implement a cost-plus contract, you know when people implement cost-plus contract? Madam President, if you're going to build a bridge from here to Matnik, and you cannot determine the cost, but the project is more important than the cost, you hire persons with that experience, and what you do, Madam President, you pay the cost and you agree on a fee. That is called cost plus. Now, that fee can be a percentage of the cost. Madam President, when you have a percentage plus the cost and you don't know what the cost is going to be, you do not know what the fee is. And you know what, Madam President, a disadvantage with cost plus contract? The contractor is influenced to increase the cost, because the higher the cost, the greater his fee. Sometimes you could be innovative as a quantity surveyor to come with a fixed fee, but when you come with a fixed fee, Madam President, he will try to speed up the project and give you short works because his fee's already in his pocket. You know what he's going to get.
Senator Henry, please wrap up.
I'm wrapping up, Madam President. I heard St.Jude is a cost-plus contract. Only terms of contract you should use when you do not know what you're doing. Madam President, somebody said the contractor who is now there came in immediately after election. But now he's a subcontractor. Can you imagine at what time that the child become the parent? Is that something like the Immaculate Conception?
Senator Henry,
miracle?
your time is up.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I do hope, Madam President, that I cannot support borrowing of $54 million if the government cannot account for what they are doing with this money at this point in time. Thank you very much.